Nathaniel Grigo was a typical teenager living in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Born into a devout Christian family, Nathaniel was the son of Greg Grigo, a former pastor and volunteer firefighter, and Sarah Grigo, a stay-at-home mother who homeschooled their children. Nathaniel had 10 siblings, but only a few were living at home at the time of the incident. Despite his seemingly normal upbringing, Nathaniel harbored deep frustrations and anger, particularly towards his mother. This resentment would tragically manifest in a gruesome act of violence that shocked the community. On January 19, 2013, Nathaniel Grigo, then 15 years old, executed a meticulously planned massacre of his family. Using an AR-15 rifle, he first shot his mother Sarah in the head as she slept. He then turned the weapon on his 9-year-old brother Zephaniah, who was sleeping beside her, forcing him to witness their mother's bloody face before killing him. Nathaniel then proceeded to his sister's bedroom, where he shot and killed his 5-year-old sister Jael and his 2-year-old sister Angelina. After these heinous acts, Nathaniel waited for his father, Greg, to return from an overnight shift at a local rescue mission. Upon Greg's arrival, Nathaniel shot him multiple times. The teenager's crime spree did not end there. He had initially planned to continue his rampage by attacking random people at a local Walmart, aiming to end his life in a confrontation with law enforcement. However, he ultimately went to his church and confessed his actions, leading to his arrest. Nathaniel was sentenced as a juvenile, making him eligible for release at 21. However, due to the brutal nature of his crimes, prosecutors appealed and he was resentenced as an adult. In 2019, Nathaniel was handed 3 life sentences for the murders of his family members. During the hearings, prosecutors emphasized his calculated and emotionless demeanor during the killings and his initial plans for further violence. Defense attorneys, however, argued that Nathaniel had been a victim of severe abuse at the hands of his father, which might have contributed to his mental state at the time of the crimes. Nathaniel, however, while giving a speech to his sisters and the judge, showed remorse. Joshua Earl Patrick Phillips was born on March 17, 1984, and lived in a seemingly typical suburban neighborhood in Jacksonville, Florida. He came from a troubled background, with reports suggesting a strict and potentially abusive home environment. Despite these challenges, he was known to be a quiet and relatively unremarkable teenager, blending into his surroundings without drawing much attention. On November 3, 1998, the peaceful suburb was shattered by an unthinkable act. 8-year-old Maddie Clifton disappeared while playing outside. A massive search ensued, involving police, FBI, and community volunteers. The breakthrough came 7 days later when Joshua's mother, Missy Phillips, discovered Maddie's body hidden under her son's waterbed. Joshua had brutally murdered her after accidentally hitting her with a baseball. In a panic to cover up the accident, he dragged Maddie into his house, strangled her, and ultimately killed her by stabbing her multiple times with a knife. Joshua was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. Given the severity of the crime, he was tried as an adult. During his trial, the prosecution painted a picture of a calculated and chilling act, while the defense argued it was a tragic accident exacerbated by panic and fear. The trial was swift and the jury took only a few hours to convict him. Joshua Phillips was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, a sentence that sparked debate about the treatment of juvenile offenders. In 2017, Joshua was resentenced to life in prison, but with the possibility of a future review based on demonstrated maturity and rehabilitation. This decision acknowledged his model behavior in prison, but maintained the severity of his original sentence due to the nature of his crime. However, he tendered an apology to Maddie Clifton's family during his resentencing.
This is for the family of Maddie Clifton. I've wanted to say this for a very long time, and I'm grateful that this chance to do so in person has arrived. I don't pretend to know or understand your pain or to grasp the void that I've created in your lives. I can say this: I do understand pain. I have become quite intimate with suffering. Growing up in prison, I've seen many dark things, and I've been to some dark places. Many times throughout this journey, I came dreadfully close to ending my life just to escape it all. During these times, I was embroiled in a flurry of emotions and feelings: guilt, despair, pain, hopelessness, fear, and shame. Each time I was somehow able to continue on, mostly because I couldn't stand to put my mother through any more trauma. She's been through enough. There were times that I was angry at her because I couldn't end my pain because of her love. Yet now, I'm eternally grateful to her. I'm grateful to her because as I've grown up, I have learned the value of life. I've learned to see the beauty and joy in a world full of strife and experience the truth of unconditional love. I wish to God that I could have known this or understood it when I was 14. Had I then, none of this would have come about. I had no clue what life meant, what death meant, nor the depths of suffering that could follow one act. I had no inkling of how long that suffering could last. I hadn't lived long enough to understand the time involved or what really suffering was. I did something horrible. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for what happened. Even now, after all these years, it is just unfathomable that all this could have occurred. It tears my mind asunder to know that I stole such a precious life from you, from the world. I so wish I could take away your pain. I thank God that I've been able to continue on in life and grow, but not a day goes by that I don't think of what led me to where I'm at. Not in prison, but in life. I pray every day that you're able to live your lives in spite of the injury I've caused you. I'm supremely grateful to have an opportunity at physical freedom. Yet any joy that arises in my heart is immediately tempered by the knowledge that these proceedings bring all involved once again, face to face with the horror that occurred in 1998. When I walked the rec yard here in chains, I looked at the sky through mesh wiring, and I thank God repeatedly for giving me hope. My next breath is always devoted to wishing peace and healing upon you all. My hopes, fears, and wishes probably mean nothing to you, but they are there all the same. May you know peace, may you be free from suffering, and may you feel the love that is the sustenance of life itself. May God bless you and heal your wounds as much as possible. Thank you, Your Honor.
Michael Shane Bargo Jr. was born in 1992. Before the crime, Bargo's life was relatively unremarkable. He lived in the quiet rural town of Summerfield, Florida. However, Bargo's life took a dark turn due to a combination of personal grievances, escalating tensions, and his own troubled mindset. On April 17, 2011, Michael Bargo orchestrated the murder of 15-year-old Seth Jackson. The motive behind the murder was deeply rooted in personal vendettas and a complex web of relationships involving Bargo, Seth Jackson, and Amber Wright, Jackson's ex-girlfriend. Bargo, along with Amber Wright, her brother Kyle Hooper, Charlie Eli, and Justin Soto, lured Seth to Eli's home under the pretense of reconciliation. Once Seth arrived, the group ambushed him. Bargo shot Seth multiple times with a .22 caliber revolver. Despite Seth's attempt to escape, he was beaten, dragged back inside, and shot again. Bargo and his accomplices then burned Seth's body in a backyard fire pit and disposed of the remains in a nearby quarry. The investigation quickly led to the arrest of Bargo and his co-defendants. Bargo was charged with first-degree murder. During his trial, the prosecution presented a chilling narrative of premeditated violence, while the defense struggled to mitigate the overwhelming evidence of his culpability. In August 2013, Bargo was convicted and sentenced to death. His co-defendants received various sentences, with Amber Wright and Kyle Hooper also receiving life sentences.
Accordingly, it is the judgment of the law and the sentence of the court that for the premeditated murder of Seth Jackson, you, Michael Shane Bargo, are sentenced to death. The defendant shall be taken by the proper authorities to the Florida State Prison and there be kept under close confinement until the date of his execution. The defendant is hereby notified that this sentence.
Bargo's initial death sentence faced legal challenges, particularly due to the non-unanimous jury recommendation. In 2016, the Florida Supreme Court mandated a new sentencing hearing.
The defendant has been found guilty of murder in the first degree in a previous proceeding. The only issue before the jury that will be selected for this case is to determine the appropriate sentence.
In 2019, a new jury unanimously recommended the death penalty, which was subsequently upheld by the Florida Supreme Court in 2021, despite appeals citing mitigating factors such as Bargo's mental health issues.
We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Michael Shane Bargo Jr., should be sentenced to death. Yes.
These cases serve as somber reminders of the importance of vigilance, mental health awareness, and the pursuit of justice for victims and their families. If you found this video informative and thought-provoking, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into true crime cases. We value your input, so feel free to share your thoughts on any other cases you'd like us to cover in the comments below. Remember to stay safe, stay aware, and we'll see you in the next video. Stay tuned, and thank you for being part of our community